We are live here on Facebook. All right, thank y'all, good people out there. I know we're a couple of minutes late, but we have a ironclad cast of people who are running to be the lieutenant governor here in the state of Georgia. This is Jay Jones. I serve as the 1st Congressional District Chair of the Democratic Party of Georgia. I have assisted me tonight one of my good friends to the north, North Gwinnett, Ms. Chair June Chris, who is the chair for the 9th Congressional District. And we're here to provide an opportunity for you to be able to talk to those people who are striving to be the lieutenant governor of this great state of Georgia. And so without further ado, because I have a lot of people that we're going to be talking to, so we're going to start it off in alphabetical order with Representative Eric Allen, and then we'll move forward from that piece. I thank y'all. And Eric, I turn the floor over to you, my friend.
Thank you very much, Chairman Jones. And 30 seconds goes real quick. So I'll just start off by saying I am State Representative Eric Allen, represent Georgia's 40th District, which is just north of the city of Atlanta. It's North Buckhead, North Atlanta, and Cobb County. I'm chair of the Cobb County delegation, and I am running for Lieutenant Governor of Georgia because I believe in Georgia. I believe we are ready for new and bold leadership, and I want to bring that leadership as I preside over the Senate, but also not only those 40 days, work 325 other days of the year fighting for every one of you that are listening. So I look forward to the questions that are coming, and I want you to remember Eric Allen for Lieutenant Governor.
All right, Charlie, you have the floor.
All right, thank you, Chairman Jones and Chair Chris. Charlie Bailey running for Lieutenant Governor, y'all. I'm running for Lieutenant Governor because every day the vast majority of Georgians, they get up and they're worried about, is my kid safe? How they doing in school? Can I pay a hospital bill if I get it? And instead of working on those issues, our main two Republican opponents in this race are in a competition over who can be the biggest authoritarian. Based on the politics of hate and division, that's not the politics I believe in. I am a people's lawyer. I'm a former senior assistant district attorney in Fulton County, working on organized crime and gangs, and I'm a proven statewide nominee. I got 49% of the vote 4 years ago. So stand with me in this election for Lieutenant Governor, stand with folks like Mayor Shirley Franklin, Congresswoman Lucy McBath, Congressman Hank Johnson, Governor Roy Barnes, and I promise you I won't let you down. Thank you.
All right, Tony Brown, you have the floor, brother.
Hey, how's everyone? My name is Tony Brown. Over 2 years ago, I announced in the paper officially I was running for Lieutenant Governor. The simple message is we need a Brown governor, we need a Brown Lieutenant Governor. My website is browngovernor.com, a U.S. Air Force veteran, a Christian minister, a husband, a father, and I've done the chaplaincy, worked at the highest level of government, and the website kind of go into details, but definitely just check out browngovernor.com.
All right, thank you, sir. We're going to Derek Jackson next.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Derek Jackson. I am a state representative of District 64. I've been serving under the Gold Dome. This is my third term, 6 years. But my service didn't start just 6 years ago. My service started in 1983. I'm the only candidate that's been fighting since 1983 for our democracy. I'm the only candidate that believes in the service that I have been doing for the last 38 years. Listen, you're gonna have 9 candidates running for Lieutenant Governor. I ask you all to look at our experience, look at our record. I will put my information in the chat, but I know we only have a minute for opening remarks, but I look forward to making the case this evening. You can go to derekjackson.org and we'll continue to have that conversation.
Thank you, sir. And Dr. Malik, you have the floor, sir.
Hello, good evening, Georgia. I'm Dr. Rashid Malik. I'm educator. I believe on education and economic development. I'm going to push for education and economic development because it will make everybody self-sufficient in Georgia. I welcome all to participate. I came to America with $1,200 and a suitcase in my hand. And today I think I've achieved the highest point in my education and professional success as a CEO of a health industry company. So I welcome all to participate and vote for the right person. As for myself, I'll be working shoulder to shoulder with Miss Stacy Abrams and with all the Senate members and the Congress members in Georgia. I welcome your support and vote. Thank you.
All right. And State Representative Renita Shannon, you can close us out with this. Thank you.
Good evening, everybody. I'm State Representative Renita Shannon. I represent House District 84, which is in the DeKalb County area. I have been in the Georgia House since 2017, working on the issues that matter to working families. In my time, I have fought for workers to be paid a livable wage because we know that workers are the majority, and it's long past time that policy actually reflected that. I fought to end mass incarceration. Georgia is an international leader in incarceration. I've also fought to protect the right to vote. I'm the only candidate in this race that can say that they directly stood up to the Trump lawyers when they came before my committee in 2020 and asked us to throw out the votes of Georgians and hand the state to Trump for the presidential election. Last but not least, I'm the only candidate in this race that can say that they got Georgia to expand Medicaid even just a little bit. I led the successful effort to expand postpartum Medicaid when Black women were 3 to 4 times more likely to die just trying to carry a pregnancy. So I'm running for lieutenant governor because I know that regressive policies have shaped a harsh reality for far too many Georgians, particularly working Georgians. We need a lieutenant governor who's going to fight for our collective future. That person is me. I'm Renita Shannon, and my website is renitashannon.com.
Hello.
I apologize.
Hello.
I thank you. I thank you, Ms. Shannon. I think Jason Hayes is calling in. Jason, that's you.
That's me. Hello. This is Dr. Jason Hayes, Democratic candidate for Lieutenant Governor. Just want to let everyone know, medical doctor, small business owner, philanthropist, and fighter for the American people right here in Georgia. One thing I want everyone to know, I am not here for a party. I'm here for people. And what I ask the American people here to do is look at all the individuals that are running for office, those who speak about their experiences. Do you have more money in your pocket? Is healthcare better? Do you have less crime in your communities? If you do, vote for these individuals. If you don't, then you have a moral responsibility to look at other candidates. So look at someone like myself, Dr. Jason Hayes, who has real life experiences and transferable skill set to get Medicaid expansion passed, to get people with access to health insurance, a real small business owner with an executive MBA who has the skills and understand about small business ownership and leveraging corporations to get them to invest in underserved communities, pushing for education, and also protecting the right to vote. What I ask, again, all of you is to look at me, Dr. Jason Hayes, at www.jasonhayesforga.com.
Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Hayes. So everybody, so we can get this clear, we want to get as many questions in as possible. And for us to do that, we have to stay within that 30 to 1 minute zone. And so you want to get as much information on. Everybody was given the same opportunity to be on this call. Everybody received the email. I try to make sure I'm plausible. I try to make sure I'm connected. And so therefore you can text me, email me, being able to get in contact with us, because it's so important for us as representation to make sure that we have a lieutenant governor who is going to speak not just to Atlanta, but to everybody across the state of Georgia. And so I've had this conversation with several of y'all throughout this call. I'm going to turn this over into June as far as the question is concerned. We're going to start with you, Representative Shannon. We're going to go backwards. And so I'll call out everybody's name, but Shannon, Representative Shannon, we're going to start with you. And June, you have the floor.
Thank you, Chair Jones, and thank you, panelists, for being here this evening. I'm going to start off with what I think is a more hardball question. It may not be for this qualified panel. And I'll read it twice because Shannon, you're first, and sometimes the first one is at a little bit disadvantage. Okay, when Stacy Abrams is elected governor of Georgia and you are elected lieutenant governor, and if the Senate stays Republican, how will you leverage your power to move more progressive legislation through the Senate?
Absolutely.
I'll read it.
You don't have to read it.
Okay.
Thank you for the question. As I mentioned before, I've already been doing the work. We are already in the minority, and I did lead the successful expansion of postpartum Medicaid, where we already have a minority of Democrats in the House and the Senate. So I've been fighting hard and getting the work done. Specifically, as Lieutenant Governor, I will appoint chairs to committees, which is a part of our duties, that will advance our values, and that is progressive values, to move forward with a agenda.
Hold just a second, Shannon. Jason, could you put yourself on mute, sir?
Uh-oh. Trying to do it. Sorry about that.
No problem. Shannon, you have the floor. Miss Shannon, you have the floor.
Do you need me to repeat?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so as I mentioned before, I've already been getting our progressive values done, even where we currently have a minority in the House and the Senate as Democrats. I led the successful expansion of postpartum Medicaid, which resulted in pregnant women being able to stay on Medicaid longer than 60 days. They had up to 6 months after our efforts, and now we've gone to 1 year. So been able to get that done, not even as a Lieutenant Governor. As Lieutenant Governor, I would use the new powers that the Lieutenant Governor has, which is to appoint chairs of committees to move our progressive legislation through.
Thank you. Derek, you have the floor. Representative Jackson, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you, Ms. June, for that question. You know, it's amazing how other candidates always attack experience, but we all know experience. And this experience that I have started when I joined the United States Navy. And during my 22 years in the United States Navy as a retired naval officer, I was a consensus builder. And so although the Senate may be, as to your point, Ms. June, remain Republican, I've already started working on both sides of the aisle to get things done in the last 6 years. I'm the only candidate that walked into Governor Kemp's office and explained to him how important it was to set up military triages to make sure we offset the impact of our hospital care, because we had too many Georgians dying over 2 years ago, and now we're up to 31,000. But we offset that because I brought the experience of what I learned in the United States Navy during those 22 years. Thank you.
Dr. Malik, you have the floor. Dr. Malik, can you unmute yourself?
As a Lieutenant Governor of Georgia, I will support Ms. Stacy Abrams thoroughly. However, I've got my own platforms to promote the interest of the American people and Georgian. I will promote economic development, environment, housing, and healthcare. Because if we can promote education and healthcare and the other things together, it will bring good life to America. I'll promote peace by trade. The more trade we do with our surrounding states and other countries will bring economic development to Georgia. In that way, it bypasses any partisan issues, because we cannot be partisans when we are serving the people. Each individual is dear to us. Each citizen of Georgia is very close to our heart. So we have to represent everybody, and we have to move beyond progressive, move beyond conservative, move beyond Republican, or move beyond Democrats. I don't label myself with anything. I'm American first, and I serve the Georgian first. So Georgian comes to me first, regardless of what is your affiliation. And if at any point it comes that it is becoming Republican and Democrats, I will shy away from it, I will avoid it, and I will promote economic development, because everybody at the end of the day needs to pay their bills. Everybody at the end of the day needs to pay for their healthcare. We should promote universal healthcare with preventive measure. Preventive measure and healthcare will save us money, and we can reinvest in the society. Thank you.
Thank you. Tony Brown, you have the floor, brother.
Sorry, I took you off mute. The bottom line is we're going to make history. We're going to have a brown governor and a brown lieutenant governor. And I worked at the highest level of government as a military officer. I had congressional affairs under me. Some of the things that I'm going to push is the dual enrollment program. I was a former high school educator, a debate coach, a debate judge, and my daughter was the youngest meteorologist at 19 years old. And so I think with the dual enrollment program, that really helps give the students the opportunity not, to have to go to high school all the time. But I'm not going to steal Stacy Abrams' thunder. I am going to whatever committees, I'm going to put myself on committees and commissions and influence some of the other areas. I volunteer at the fire department. I have ideas for that. So basically that's what it is. And I'm not going to steal their thunder, and I'm going to push good initiatives because I'm well around it. Thank you.
All right, thank you, sir. Dr. Hayes, are you there?
Yes, sir, I am.
All right, you have the floor.
Absolutely. Well, as I mentioned before, party people before the party. I'm not here for the party, I'm here for people. So I would work across both aisles of both Democrats and Republicans for the issues that are at hand. Also would work with the governor, whether if it's Stacey Abrams or a Republican governor as well. In terms of pushing progressive agendas, I would also work with appointing individuals for committees and commissions, and also would work with other outside organizations within the Georgia departments of labor, Department of Health, and whatever other organization is needed so we can push progressive agendas.
Thank you.
Right.
Charlie, you have the floor, brother.
Thank you, Jay. So Renita's right. We've got the power as Lieutenant Governor to decide who chairs what committee, decide who sits on what committee. You also have the power to decide what committee a piece of legislation goes to. So we can use all those powers to direct the good legislation where it needs to go, the bad legislation where it needs to go, so it doesn't come out of committee. If we gain a seat back in the state Senate, we're still going to need 6 Republicans to pass something through the state Senate. I'm not giving up on the idea that we can't make arguments to 6 Republicans about how their districts would improve, how their constituents would benefit from something, and get them on board. But I'll tell you this, if they don't come along with Medicaid expansion and raising teacher pay and making technical school tuition free again, if they don't come along with these things, then in 2024, I'm going to raise more money for Democrats running for state Senate than has ever been raised in this state before. And we're going to go out and we're going to beat 6 Republicans to take the majority back so that we can pass the legislation that the people of Georgia need.
All right, Representative Eric Allen, go ahead and close this out, brother.
Yeah, so I'm gonna pull us away from some of the naivete that's been talked about, because one thing we know is that in Georgia, in that state house, that politics is a partisan sport, it's contact sport, fully engagement sport, and we're going to have to do everything we can to get our agenda through. What I would say is, this is not checkers; it's three-dimensional chess. Not only as Lieutenant Governor do we have to preside over the Senate, and some of my good friends, Charlie and Renita, everybody, they're right that it's assigning the bills to committee. It's making sure you get in the right spot to stall or kill, but it's also understanding what's going on in the House, because there's that horse trading, that negotiation. When you're in that room, you know that there are certain priorities where the House will hold a vote until the Senate makes a vote that they want, and you're playing it back and forth. And you also have to look at the priorities of the governor and what needs to be done there. So yes, there's the mechanics of what do we do to make sure we're managing the Senate, but we also have to understand the other parts of the legislative process, because there are over 1,800 bills in the House this year, this biennium introduced, and almost 1,000 bills in the Senate. And so the Lieutenant Governor can't be sitting there thinking about 1 or 2 priorities. They got to have principles to deal with multiple layers of legislation and the entire ecosystem of getting something passed.
Thank you, Brother Allen. I'm gonna go ahead. This next question, June, I'm gonna jump in here. So since it was mentioned several times, the Lieutenant Governor has multiple jobs out there. That was always the tester question I always push out there, and I'm glad June did that. But we're gonna start with you, Charlie, since you alluded to. So what are some other things as Lieutenant Governor are things that's pressing that we should be looking forward to?
I mean, what issues should we be looking?
As Lieutenant Governor, what would be some pressing things that you think which should be a core responsibility that we should be addressing? Maybe I should say it that way.
Well, I mean, top of mind for me, my top priority is Medicaid expansion. We got to get that through, the legislature. So, that'll be 600,000 Georgians that don't have health care right now that would get it. I'm from rural Georgia. I'm from Harris County, Georgia, other side of the state from y'all, the west side with Alabama. We've had 8 rural hospitals closed in the last 10 years. We're also, by the way, we're already paying for Medicaid expansion. We're just paying for our brothers and sisters in Indiana and California and New York to have it, while our people are not getting it. So that's priority number one. That's the first thing I'll be working on. I know I only got 30 seconds. So, I'm sure my friends are going to have other things we can work on, but that's my number one.
And Renita, let me go and get you in before you close out on me. Renita, can you follow up on that?
Sure. So I'm going to correct the record real quick because it was said earlier that bills get assigned by the Lieutenant Governor. The Senate has a rules chair who does assign bills to a committee, but the Lieutenant Governor gets to decide who's going to be the chair of committees. I'll also tell you the other jobs of the Lieutenant Governor because I think that's what your question was referencing. The Lieutenant Governor also gets to make appointments. So on various boards, you think about, for example, medical marijuana, deciding who gets a license. The Lieutenant Governor got appointments in that. The Lieutenant Governor takes over if anything happens to the governor. And those are the main functions of the Lieutenant Governor, in addition to being president of the Senate.
All right, thank you. Tony Brown, you have the floor. You have to unmute yourself, Tony.
Sorry about that. Also to add on, the Lieutenant Governor, he has about 6 or 7 staff members as of right now, I believe. Again, I would also push the education. I think it's a very easy thing. I know it from the back of my hand, and my kids utilized it. And again, the dual enrollment is a big thing. And I could, really get that through with everybody in the state and high school, give them the options from private schools to public schools and so forth. So again, that's an easy pass, and I would perfect it. Hey, thanks.
All right, yes, sir. Dr. Malik, you have the floor, sir.
I believe on education and healthcare of all other things, Why education? I'm a prime example. I came to America with $1,200 in my pocket and a simple suitcase, which will feed maybe 3 months clothing. And I started my first job as dishwasher at Northeast Missouri State University, Truman State University now. I finished my bachelor over there. Then I went to University of Kansas to finish my master and PhD. So I strongly believe on education because education sets you free. You understand your environment and you can change your field because our education system teaches you the methodology of acquiring knowledge. So once you have that one, nobody can take it from you. Then comes the healthcare. We have to push for universal healthcare for everybody. Every citizens of Georgia should be covered 110% vis-a-vis healthcare. Without healthcare, nothing is going to move because if you have got good health, you have got good education, you're self-established, you bring your own self-determination and push forward self with your family, with your neighbors. Thank you.
Dr. Malik, thank you. I appreciate it. Derek Jackson, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Again, within 30 seconds. The other thing that Lieutenant Governor focused on, if I understand your question correctly, Mr. Chairman, is the budget. The budget. The Lieutenant Governor, and the Speaker of the House control the budget. That's our number one responsibility when we're in session. And I'll continue on the conversation. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Jason Hayes, you have the floor.
Absolutely. Can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
Absolutely. Great. Besides the documented responsibilities of the Lieutenant Governor, making appointments, and then also being the President of the Senate and casting tie-breaking votes, I would actually go beyond that. I would not be sitting there in an ivory tower. Actually utilize my skill set as a physician, but also National Health Service Corps doctor, would focus on Medicaid expansion, but also focus on getting doctors to underserved communities and also working with the healthcare systems, because everyone gets Medicaid expansion. You need doctors who will be available to see the patients. And you also need healthcare systems available to see them. So I have the skill set, not only the skill set, the experience, healthcare administration, physician's executive MBA, budgeting, and also health economics. So I'll be able to leverage that not only with state senates, state representatives, and governors, but also Department of Georgia Health and HRSA. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. And Eric Allen, I didn't forget you, brother. You got the floor.
No, that's okay. I'm sitting back waiting patiently. I appreciate it. The only thing I'll add on to what people have said, I think some people have said some good things, not policy related, but the role. The laws that are passed and signed by the governor are applied by our state agencies and departments. Each of those departments have boards or authorities that govern them. The lieutenant governor has over around 150 appointments to various boards and authorities around the state. So just passing the legislation is one thing, but how the departments interpret that law and create the rule and how it's administered is a completely different step. And so there's a lot of power in the lieutenant governor by appointing the right people in the right place at the right time to make sure that the laws we enact are addressed as intended by the various departments across the state, whether that be healthcare, law enforcement, environment. All of those are run by state agencies and departments.
Thank you, sir. All right, Ms. June is going to ask the next question. Derek Jackson, be on call. You will be the first one to answer the question.
Thank you. This may seem so simple, but I think a lot of people really want to know why you decided to run for lieutenant governor for this particular office rather than another office. You're also qualified. None of you need, you've all got good jobs and good qualifications. So why this particular office at this time?
Ms. June, thank you for the question. You know, when I think about the decision to run for lieutenant governor, it was quite simple to me. It really comes down to service. As I stated earlier, I have 38 years of leadership and service. I'm the only candidate. And so when I noticed that our country was under siege on January 6th of last year, I realized that I needed to do more than just be a state representative. And so when you think about the calling, serving, families, and experience, it was quite evident that I needed to run for lieutenant governor. My career has created and facilitated the opportunity to this point. You need a lieutenant governor that understands how to get things done. 10.8 million Georgians, Ms. June, is counting on their government to show up. And that's why it's imperative that we have the right lieutenant governor, the right governor, and so on and so forth, to make sure our government is showing up for the people, for working families. That's why I'm running for lieutenant governor, because of my service.
Thank you, Jackson. We're going to Dr. Malik. You have the floor.
For me, we have to push two things forward. Of everybody over here, I'm the only one who worked for $2.72 per hour as a dishwasher. I know the value of hard working. I know the value of discipline. I know the value of good health because I didn't have health care. Today, I'm the CEO of a home health care service, and I deal with Medicaid day in and day out, and I see the weaknesses in our system. My first priority will be to fix the healthcare system of Georgia, i.e. America. I'll do my best to set Georgia as a model for others to follow. We have to have good healthcare so nobody can think about, or nobody thinks about how we're gonna take care of my body. If you don't have a body, what are you gonna do with your soul? So we have to come together. We have to improve our healthcare system, provide healthcare to everybody, 110% of the population, and then promote education. I offer education all the time through 24 hours, education through 24-hour servers. So we have education on demand. Anybody at any time of the day can access on any discipline and gain their knowledge. If you want to know about nanotechnology, you go and type in nanotechnology and you get it. You want to get about networking in computer, you just go and search it in that Edu server.
Thank you, Dr. Malik. Appreciate it. Charlie, you have the floor.
I worked for the last Democratic lieutenant governor in the state of Georgia. Mark Taylor has endorsed my campaign. I know what a Democratic lieutenant governor can get done for working folks, particularly when they've got a Democratic governor and the power of that line item veto in the budget. So like I said before, I'm running because what I see on the other side is people that would, rather have this competition over who can be the biggest authoritarian. Folks that think that not everybody's vote does matter the same, and not everybody's kid matters the same, not everybody's community matters the same. And that's just the opposite of what I believe. It's the opposite of values that have driven my career and that drive this campaign. So I'm running to work on those issues that are closest to the hearts and the lives of the people of Georgia, to work on, them worrying about, is my kid safe? How are they doing in school? And can I pay a hospital bill if it comes in? That's why I'm running for lieutenant governor.
I appreciate that, Charlie. Everybody, if you're not talking, please make sure you're muted, so therefore we don't interrupt the conversation. Eric, you have the floor, brother.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. So the reason I decided to run, there are three in particular. The first one is, I want to offer my leadership. I'm the only candidate in this race that has served as a leader in state government when I served as Executive Director of Development for the Department of Behavioral Health, which is the job I held prior to my first run in 2014. So I understand the way our infrastructure, our systems work within state government. I'm also the only one in this race who has held a leadership position in the legislature. I served as the chair of the Cobb County delegation, which is the third largest legislative delegation in the House and Senate. So I have that experience as well as also getting bills passed. The only one to have bills signed by the governor that have my name on it. I think that's important as well. And then lastly, what I'll say is I'm the only person in this race that's running a competitive election in November and won. I know there are some of my colleagues that have come really close, but I flipped a seat from a 20-year incumbent Republican. It took me 3 tries to do it. I have the persistence and the experience, and that's what we're going to have to do in this seat. We're going to have to flip this seat from a 20-year incumbency of continued Republicans holding on to the lieutenant governor's office. And I think I'm the right person for that job.
Thank you, Eric. Tony, you have the floor.
Hey, thanks. Again, like I said, I'm probably the only candidate. I announced in the newspaper over 2 years ago, and that's because I'm a visionary to bring dynamic leadership. As a military officer, I led, and I'm prepared to lead as lieutenant governor and step in if needed as governor. You train to do both. A good story is my friend, Winston Sears, went to my family church in Virginia, and now she's the first African-American lieutenant governor of the state of Virginia as a Republican. So again, and then also, I was a medical service corps officer with hospital administration, and I'm good in healthcare law. So again, it's just, if you just look at my website, it has almost everything from business owner to different things, and I really appreciate it. Thanks.
Thank you, sir. Jason Hayes, go ahead and close us out, brother.
Hello, how y'all doing? Can y'all hear me?
Yes, sir.
Very good. So this is a great question. So I did run for state representative. Again, my name is Dr. Jason Hayes, ran for state representative in House District 49. If you're very familiar with House District 49, it's Alpharetta with parts of Johns Creek. It's a very Republican. It's probably one of the strongest Republican districts here in the state of Georgia, and it actually coincides with 6th Congressional District, former Newt Gingrich's district, Republican. Actually got 47.2% of the vote as a first-time candidate in the general election, and I also had a primary in which I got 54.2% of the vote in the Democratic. So the question that I get is that why not run again? And I tell people that Alpharetta and Johns Creek is going to be fine. They have small businesses there, CEOs of millionaires. The concern that I have is all of Georgia. The concern I have is the people that look like me, that comes from similar communities that I grew up in, rural working class community. It's a shame that Georgia's ranked 43rd in healthcare, and also we're the second worst state for a woman to become pregnant in. I know we have some great politicians and people supported by career politicians, but I am the only candidate that has been educated, trained, and physically taking care of patients who have healthcare disparities as a doctor in rural settings, in the ghettos of America. And I'm the only one that's trained from a administrative standpoint and also trained to look at statistics. I'm the only one that understands how to get healthcare fixed here in Georgia. I'm also one of the only few that understands economic growth, small business ownership, and how we need to tie this into improving communities. Everyone talks about their experiences and what they've done here and there, but the American people here in Georgia need something different. We don't need career politicians who have the skill set at doing politicking. We need good experienced individuals who are ready to lead, and I'm ready to lead those, especially those who are marginalized all over Georgia, in particular the south of Georgia as well.
Thank you, Jason.
Thank you.
All right. So, June, I'm gonna hold your question because I got a question to ask in between. All right. And so I've heard this morning, from this morning to this moment, everybody has an only. All right. I've heard all the onlys out of everybody. One thing I want to go ahead and put it out there. Let's keep our responses at a minute. I'll only give you 1 minute, 1 minute. So let's keep it at 1 minute. And I appreciate those who stay within, because I understand we're all passionate. We want to make sure we get everything out there. But my question to you, and I'm going to start with Tony. All right. So tell me the one only we really, really need to know. And if you can keep yourself muted, that way I don't see your picture. Tell me the only I need to know about you related to the lieutenant governor's seat. And I want to make sure it's clear. It's related to the lieutenant governor's seat. You can repeat an only you already said, but give me an only we need to know related to the lieutenant governor's seat from you. And Tony, I hate to put you on the hot seat first, but you got it. I'm going in my order, brother. You got the question.
Wow. Boy, I'm trying to think. Again, I just like to keep focusing on, I'm a visionary. Again, I was the only one that probably, like I said, over 2 years ago. So I've been looking for this position and to lead, to be a good example. My uncle was a big time politician. I know he's in the 80s, and I've learned from my mother. She was 1941 from Tuskegee University as an educator. So these are some of the things I'm going to keep sticking with, just the visionary and the leader. And I was the first one to be out of the gate. Thank you.
Yes, sir. All right. Derek, we're going with you.
I'm the only candidate that's married and have 7 children. I understand the plight of family.
Yes,
If you don't have 7 children, 5 of them are in college, Mr. Chairman, that's a only.
I got you. Appreciate that. I figured I have a fun question. Jason, you have the floor.
Yes, sir. Thank you. I am the only candidate that has graduated from a historically Black college and university, Xavier University and Meharry Medical College. So I'm committed to making sure our HBCUs will stay alive and supported. And I'm the only candidate that's a medical doctor who has people's lives in his hands every day. And also, I'm the only candidate that is a true bipartisan candidate that's liked by both Democrats and Republicans. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir. Charlie, you have the floor, brother.
I can't talk to 7 kids. I don't know. Can't do that. I don't know. It's a good question, Jay. I don't know. I'm the only candidate that's been a prosecutor before. I'm the only candidate that has worked in the criminal justice system, that stood in front of a jury and asked the jury to hold somebody accountable for a murder or brutal kidnapping. I'm also the only one that stood in front in a courtroom and said on behalf of the people of Georgia, we're dismissing this case. I understand public safety in a way that my friends, or with an experience my friends don't have, though they have other experiences that they have pointed out. But I guess that's my best shot.
Thank you, Charlie. I appreciate it. Dr. Malik, you have the floor, brother.
My only primary concern comes from my experience, direct experience. From 1979 till I graduated from for my PhD from University of Kansas, I was worried about my health, always worried about my health. What is going to happen to me next? Heart attack, cancer, some kind of disease that everything will stop. So my primary only concern for Georgia is healthcare, 110% healthcare for everybody. Georgian, when you wake up every morning, you should be sure that you are covered head to toe without thinking, without worrying. You are covered your healthcare. If you have got good health, you can get good education. If you have got good health, you can get good job. If you can have good health, you can have 10 children. If you have got good health, you can do whatever you like to do. You can be innovative, you can be creative. So I promote Medicaid for everybody, 110% coverage, because today I'm dealing with healthcare and I see the suffering of our senior citizen. None of our senior citizens should be deprived of the basic human rights, food, clothing, housing, any services they need, and a good life. They can travel somewhere, or they will be just suffering in their small room. I don't want it for Georgia. Georgia, come together, help me to help us so we can have a good healthcare in our system. Thank you.
All right, appreciate it. Representative Allen, you have the floor, man.
Yeah, I'm laughing at my friend Derek in the chat. He's right on that. Don't want to respond in 30 seconds. And I'm also not going to compete with you for 7 kids. You can have that one all by yourself. I am in this race the only candidate who has worked both as a leader in government and a leader in the legislature. And I think that's relevant to your question to the lieutenant governor's role, because lieutenant governor has one foot in the legislative and one foot in the executive branch. And so that makes that extremely relevant. And I'll also say on some of the other issues that have been talked about, I'm the only person in this race who has a perfect rating from the Georgia NAACP legislative record. So I think that's relevant as well.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate that. I wanted to give an easy question in there because, I mean, I have to be the narrator when it gives the bad news about the 30-second or the 1-minute conversation. But I appreciate all y'all being here as far as leadership is concerned. I'm going to turn it back over to June. She's going to have the next question for you. June, you have the floor.
Thank you, Chair Jones. Would you support a bill in Georgia to end gerrymandering by having an independent agency such as maybe UGA, Georgia Tech, or universities combined to draw up lines for political contest?
All right. And Dr. Malik, you're going to be the first one answering this question. Can you restate that question again, Ms. June?
Would you support a bill in Georgia to end gerrymandering by having an independent agency such as some of the universities forming committees, independent committees to draw lines for political contest?
You have
If I have the power, ultimate power, I will stop gerrymandering yesterday. We don't need gerrymandering. Gerrymandering is biased. Whenever something is biased, there's something wrong with it. Yes, definitely we should have an independent and very independent body to come and establish a neutral platform where everybody can vote from their own area. So we should not go into gerrymandering. Gerrymandering is like cutting a watermelon and the best one is taking the middle of the watermelon. And that's not fair at all. So gerrymandering does not represent us. We are Americans. We are accepting for all. Look at me, I'm an immigrant. I'm a Muslim. I came over here and gave a ran for the money for George to Mr. Bob Udall. I received 115,000 votes in 2016. So America has been very good to me, and I have to be good to America. No gerrymandering at all at any time. So Georgia can be an example and a model for others to follow, because we are not in isolation. We are together as Americans. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Malik. Representative Allen, you have the floor, sir.
Thank you. Had to get myself off mute. So if you look up HR 369 from the 2019-2020 legislative session, you'll see that I co-sponsored legislation entitled the Democracy Act. The Democracy Act did just that. If passed, it would have prevented a lot of the chaos that we had in some of our county, especially our local redistricting this year, with Cobb County being a main target of some of this. Gwinnett, Richmond, Fulton, DeKalb had some issues. So, and I believe Savannah, Chatham County as well had a few issues. So not only would I support it, I've already signed my name to legislation that would do it. And we're going to come back to that and get that passed. And we'd also do legislation that would prohibit mid-decennial redistricting. People don't realize Georgia is one of the few states that allows redistricting at any point, as long as the legislature approves it. We need to refine that to only at the decennial census unless an extenuating circumstance.
Thank you, sir. Derek Jackson, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The short answer is yes, I will support legislation because as my colleague just stated, that's what we continue to do and fight under the gold dome. As the vice chair of Fulton County delegation, as the vice chair of the largest Black caucus in the nation, we travel across Georgia. And what Georgians stated, we want to have a fair and equitable process. And so we need to have legislation to reflect the same.
All right, Charlie, you have the floor.
I agree 100% with my friends here. I would oppose any gerrymandering and would support legislation to outlaw both partisan and racial gerrymandering in Georgia. Give it to either a commission, an independent commission, as Ms. June described, or a panel of judges, as some states have done it, to draw lines that respect the Equal Protection Clause, one person, one vote, and not infringe on people's ability to elect the person of their choosing, and not the elected officials to choose their voters. So absolutely would support legislation to end gerrymandering, both partisan and racial gerrymandering.
Appreciate it, Charlie. Tony, you have the floor.
Yes, I'm not a fan of gerrymandering at all, but as lieutenant governor, I'll be on the commission and the committee and do a correct assessment, get the right people in my office around the universities, HBCUs, UGA, some of the big universities, and see what they say and make sure, that it's fair. And I believe I'm the only candidate that was a disabled American veteran from the early 90s. But yeah, that's what I would do.
And Jason, are you there?
Yes, I am here.
All right. Did you catch the question? Because I lost.
I did. So
Okay.
I am, yes, I am against gerrymandering and definitely would support independent organizations to actually come in and remedy the situation. And also to make sure that the correct lines are drawn based upon objective situations, whether if it's river, latitude, longitudinal, natural boundaries and whatnot. So yes, I am for independent evaluation and investigation and eliminating gerrymandering.
All right. I did get everybody right. I did get everybody.
Renita Shannon.
Renita's gone. She left.
So sorry.
Yes, sir. June, you have the floor.
I don't want to put anybody on the spot, and you don't have to name a person's name. You could just name maybe their profession or something, but excluding your parents and close relatives, what or who is the person that influenced your values and character the most, and or perhaps was influential in putting you where you are today?
All right. And so we're gonna start with you. We're going to start with you, Jason, first, because I had to get my order back in order, and that's the only way I can do so. So, Jason, you have the floor.
Wow, that's a great question. Let me see if I can understand this. Could you repeat the question one more time? Because I want to make sure I answer this question correctly.
Yes. And I know it's hard because it could be a lot of people, but excluding your parents and close relatives, one person in your life that influenced you, helped you develop character, and maybe led you into public service, or made you think about doing what you are doing today, or somebody that just touched your life, changed your life, other than your parents or close relatives, that made you part of the person you are today?
Absolutely. So I'll answer that question. I talk a lot about my mother. She's the reason why I'm a physician. But because of her, her employer was a physician and also a surgeon as well. And I was able to round with him in college and was able to see how he treated his patients, was able to see how he was always on call for his patients, how he had life in his hand. But he always prayed to God and allowed God to guide his mind, his heart, and his soul. And the other thing I liked about this individual, which I call the mentor as well, was that he respected everyone with respect, whether they were a doctor or a lawyer or whether they were a janitor in the hospital. This particular person just really exemplified in my mind leadership and a true calling to public service.
Thank you, sir. We're going to go with Derek Jackson.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. First and utmost, thank you for the question, June. My mother, but you said besides my parent, it would be my school teacher. When you think about teachers, Miss Doyle, second grade, taught me how to overcome a severe speech impediment. And she is the one that gave me the techniques and the tools to overcome stuttering or stammering. And so now today I can speak in front of thousands, if not millions, because what Miss Doyle did when I was in the second grade.
Thank you, sir. Eric Allen, you have the floor, brother.
Yeah, mine is also a teacher. It's my 8th grade teacher, English teacher, who basically changed my perception of how important education was. Even though my mother was an educator, I was one of those kids that really just skated by and never really took serious education. And she, Chrissy Lyons, she taught me the difference between studying and homework and studying. And she would say, homework is what I give you that's required. Studying is what you do to be the head of your competition. And I use that to this day. There's a time to do homework and there's a time to study, because study is what gets you prepared. And because of her lessons, I also learned you don't have to get ready if you stay ready. And so it was my 8th grade English teacher.
Thank you, sir. Tony Brown, you have the floor, brother.
Other than my parents, my dad was a World War II Navy veteran. Can you hear me?
Yes, sir. I can hear you, brother.
Oh, okay, great. My dad was World War II, 1922 born. He passed at 95 years old, a pastor and preached for over 57 years. And I think I'm the only maybe gospel minister that we have. But my mentor would be Dr. Miles Monroe, one of the greatest preachers and teachers of all times from the Bahamas. And my pastor also in Norfolk, Calvary Revival Church, Dr. Bishop Courtney Macbeth. And I've been beside shoulder to shoulder photo ops from President Bush to Colin Powell to Andrew Young. But definitely the ministry is with Dr. Miles Monroe.
Thank you, sir. Dr. Malik, you have the floor, brother.
Can I have 1 hour?
Oh, man. I can do a one-on-one show with you and we can do an hour. That's fine. But you got 1 minute right here.
To me, Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam is the example I follow. Today, if you go to Supreme Court, you'll find our founding fathers who wrote the Constitution based on what America has been running for 400 years. You see the Muhammad, the greatest lawgiver. He gave me the law to how to lead my life. Metaphorically speaking, when I came to Missouri, there was no minorities over there. There were only few Bangladeshis and some scattered minorities. I felt like an orphan. Every day when I came to my room, it was cold. When I stayed in the apartment, was to keep the heating low to save bills. Muhammad gave me the way of life, how to be disciplined, how not to go and party every night and then fail in your life. Along with Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, my example are the Americans, because they are the combination of the good things, characteristic of Muhammad in them. I saw Muhammad among the Americans because they took me in. They gave me education, they gave me healthcare, they gave me housing, they gave me all the things I needed from this society. And I'm grateful to America. And today I'm here to serve America and the Georgians. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Dr. Malik. And Charlie, baby, Charlie, go ahead and close us out, brother.
Mine's a teacher as well. I was sitting here, I was trying to cheat by naming my grandmother, but I guess that's too close. Mrs. Freeman, who was an English teacher, literature teacher of mine, 7th grade. And she taught me to be curious about the world, and to read about it, to not assume anything about anybody. If you can be open with your mind, that means your heart can be open, and you can change your mind if you need to change your mind. You can learn more about your fellow man, your fellow woman, and that lifelong, I guess, openness through exploration is what she taught to me and what has stayed with me.
Thank you, Charlie. All right, so June, I got to throw in a question out there. So June is the more serious one of the two of us. I'm more not too sure. If you all put yourself on mute for me, please. Put yourself on mute for me, please. All right. Hello, y'all hear me? All right, this will fix it. Boom. All right. So I am the more caveat of not as serious as June, but I do know how to ask good questions without being serious. And so with that being said, my question is this. We've all discussed the fact that the lieutenant governor is the #2 in the office. And so we understand that position also ties into being over the state Senate. It also ties to, being the chief legislator when it comes to the state Senate. And so my question to you is this, and it's candid. Now, we don't talk as much as far as what happens if something happens to the governor. And it doesn't always have to be where the governor dies. I mean, what happens if the governor takes on a higher position or a higher calling or moves on from the governor's seat? That lieutenant governor person actually moves into that seat. And so I did this view right here, and I'm gonna leave it on this view so we can make sure we get this clear. So if anything happened to the governor, what will be one of the first things you challenge the state of Georgia to do? What will be one of the first things? And see, I did that so I can get everybody's attention. So I got everybody's eyes. And we're going to go back in the alphabetical order, and not the alphabetical order I spoke of earlier, but in the real alphabetical order. So Eric, you got the first question. And what I meant by that, you remember I said B before A, but I'm going with A first. So Eric, you have the question, brother.
You know what? So I'm gonna take it literal to this situation. Okay. And just say that if our lieutenant governor and Governor Abrams is successful in being appointed to something else or runs for president in 24 and wins, whatever happens, the first thing I would do is make sure we fulfill the obligations and the promise of the Abrams administration. That would be number one. She's going to run to be governor. She's going to outline what she wants to get accomplished over the next 4 years, and I'm going to fulfill that. And I also want to just make sure we're clear. The Constitution of Georgia says that the lieutenant governor will fulfill the duties of the governor, but does not get elevated to being governor. So I will still fulfill my duties as lieutenant governor, but also fulfill the duties of the governor, which is to complete the Abrams term and fulfill her commitment to the people.
Thank you, sir. Charlie, I put it in order. You next, brother.
Well, the first thing I would ask the people of Georgia to do, should this hypothetical play out, is to give us the political capital to continue, as Eric said, the work that Governor Abrams started. And that requires voting more Democrats into the state Senate, into the state House, to give us more leverage to, if we haven't gotten Medicaid expansion done, get that done. If we haven't raised teacher pay sufficiently, we need to get that done. If we've not fixed GBI so we don't have years-long backlogs in the testing of sexual assault kids, we need to get that done. But the first thing I would ask the people of Georgia to do is to stand up and give us the political capital and the leverage we need to accomplish and finish out the Abrams agenda there in the General Assembly.
Tony, you have the floor, brother.
Hey, thanks. One of the things I would do, which everyone always forgets, the county schools are sovereign. So I would actually give more, which it'd be easy to pass. I would give the state superintendent more power. That way they can go in there when they're troubled county schools, when the school board members are not doing what they're required to do, and the superintendent's not required. The state superintendent basically is a figurehead and they don't have any power. So to have them go in there and to correct things, that would be one of the things that it easily could get passed, because you have to, care about the children and the community and so forth. Hey, thank you.
Thank you, sir. Dr. Jason Hayes, you have the floor, brother.
Absolutely. One thing I do want to remind everyone that when you're the lieutenant governor, we should all be preparing as the quarterback. Even though you're the number 2, just like with a football team, every quarterback in that quarterback room needs to be preparing like the starter. So that's going to be on my mind every day, because again, as we mentioned, the governor anything could happen. So, but my first act as governor, or at least acting governor, would be is to push for Medicaid expansion, and that would be a unilateral decision. Wouldn't wait on anybody. Of course, I've seen individuals who call themselves constitutionalists may question this, but we'd be pushing for Medicaid expansion and make sure health care is a priority for all Georgians.
10-4. Derek Jackson, you have the floor, brother.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Again, this is where experience comes in. Having led sailors and officers in battle, and if you're called upon to lead at a moment's notice, what do? And you have to bring about a sense of calmness. And even if the perception that this is a situation, Mr. Chairman, you have to get the media on board and the constitutional officers on board. And then next, outline a special session to get the legislative branch on board to make sure where we're going, how we're doing it, because this all falls on a depend. If the event takes place while we're in session, that's one thing. But if the event takes place and we're out of session, your scenario on how you approach this is something completely different. This is why experience matters.
Thank you, sir. And Dr. Malik, you close us out for us as a question.
The first thing I will bring to the board is consensus of all the leadership and the citizens. By citizens, I mean the representative and the mass media. We come together and make a collective decision. Consensus is the key. However, from my immediate experience as the CEO of a healthcare industry, I feel the need of the senior citizen. Based on that, I'll push for healthcare. Every day I deal with the senior citizen, their primary concern is their Maslow hierarchy of needs. Because at the end of the life, they understand life better than I do. In average, they are 70 years old and they've got 70 plus years experience. And what they tell me, Dr. Malik, please look after me. Please give my food. Please give my provision. Please give my shelter. Please give my health care. Please give my transportation. Please provide an efficient caregiver to me. So I know what is the need of a citizen at the end of their life. And that should be the need of every citizen in the beginning of the life. So the children who cannot vote, senior citizens who are not able to vote because of their situation, are most neglected population in our community. I will uphold the dignity of our children. I will uphold the dignity of our senior citizen. Thank you, Georgia.
Thank you, sir. And Ms. June, could you unmute yourself, Ms. June?
Yes, sir.
All right, Ms. June, do you have anything else you want to ask these fine candidates?
I have one last question if there's
Okay.
time.
Yes, ma'am. We'll go ahead and ask that question.
What do you think is the worst piece of legislation or the worst issue or thing or that the Republicans have done to Georgia since they've had control? It could be a piece of legislation this session, or it could be something broader than that. What is the worst thing that they've laid on the people of Georgia? And as Lieutenant Governor, how could you try to change that?
Okay, so with that question being the bonus question, anybody want to lead on it? Just raise your hand. All right, Malik, you have it, and then I'm going with Eric.
The first thing I will do is give the freedom back to Georgians. Stop gerrymandering. As citizens of Georgia, we have got every right to decide our destination. No more gerrymandering in Georgia or in the history of America. Let Georgia be the example for others to follow. Give freedom to people. Believe on the people that they can make destination on their own hand. And all you need is to provide education and good health care, coupled with preventive measure. And that will give them the impetus they need to have a good life. So I welcome all you to stop gerrymandering. Don't take our freedom. Our freedom is our God-given freedom, and the Constitution gives us that freedom. So please don't take that freedom away from us. Look at my eyes, work with me together, and we'll get rid of gerrymandering forever in Georgia. Thank you, Georgia.
Appreciate it, sir. Mr. Allen, you have the floor. We're going with Charlie.
All right, so I think there's been a lot of horrible stuff Republicans have done to Georgia over the years. But I would say that the most calculating, the worst thing they've done is to erode our system of public education. They truly know that knowledge is power, and to control a population, those marginalized Black and brown communities and others, is to suppress them or keep them away from information and knowledge. I think the Republicans over the last 30 years have had a 3D strategy with education to demonize, defund, and defund. And we see them executing it every day. They demonize our public education system. They defund it. We voted on 2 or 3 bills this year to transfer money directly from our public school systems into our private school systems. And then they defunct them. They basically make them so dysfunctional that they start pointing at them and say, this school is failing and this school is failing. And I tell people all the time, there's no such thing as a failing school. There's just a state that has failed to support that school. So I think education is the worst and atrocious thing that Republicans have done in control.
Thank you. Charlie, you have the floor, brother.
I'm going to say again, I think it's abject moral failing that these Republicans over the last 12 years have not expanded Medicaid. There are people that would be here that are not here, whose kids would have them, whose brothers and sisters would have them, but they are not, because they did not have health care, and all because Republicans didn't want to give credit to the first Black president elected in our country's history. That's what all this is about. So I think it's the most damaging thing they've done to the lives of the people of Georgia. And it's why I also think it is the most impactful thing we can get done right away for the people of Georgia. But of many, many things that they've done to enrich their friends and kowtow to right-wing authoritarians, that I think is the worst thing that they have done to this state.
Thank you, sir. Tony, Jason, or Derek, do y'all want to have a gander at it?
Yes.
Go ahead, Tony.
Well, yes. The Georgian citizens are going to love me for this. I believe Virginia and New York, The one thing I would fight for, which they have never done, is with tickets. When you get tickets, misdemeanors, and so forth, you don't get arrested for that. So they stopped all that little traffic things and stop arresting people and put them in jail for one day. And also probably even look at the truancy for parents. If a student doesn't show up for 3 days, they have to go on a clink. It's up to $100 fine and up to 30 days. So maybe look at that also. But definitely minor traffic violations. You get a warrant, you're not going in. You know, you just handle it and pay your fine. They'll suspend your driver's license and stop infringing in people's lives, messing good citizens' lives up. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Tony. Derek, you have it, then I'll go with Jason.
Mr. Chairman, I appreciate the question that you and June provided us tonight, because it gives the audience something to really consider as they evaluate the next lieutenant governor. The most incredulous thing that Republicans have done since I've been under the Gold Dome is attack our democracy by way of minimizing, limiting, or restricting the ballot box. If you cannot vote, ladies and gentlemen, you cannot even think about healthcare. If you cannot vote, you cannot even think about public education. If you cannot vote, you cannot think about justice. You can't think about broadband. You can't think about nothing if you cannot vote. Because I've been to a country where democracy was very absent. And that's not America. That's not Georgia. And so the most horrific thing that Republicans have done is Senate Bill 202, Senate Bill 89, and House Bill 1464 as they continue to go after our vote.
Thank you. Jason, you have the floor.
Absolutely. Well, I'm going to focus on women's health. I feel as if the Republicans have done everything that they can do to attack women, children, to attack healthcare as a whole. The heartbeat bill is something that has put a lot of women in the corner, restricting their ability to make reproductive decisions, restricting their ability just to have freedom of healthcare. And then also you factor that into maternal mortality. I mentioned that Georgia is the second worst state to be pregnant in. So as a lieutenant governor, I will definitely make sure that we put women in control of their bodies and give them every opportunity to be independent of Republicans and make sure that they can make good decisions for themselves. So I'll fight for women, fight for all marginalized people, and also continue to make sure people have voter access as well.
All right. So Dr. June, you got anything else for me question-wise?
This is good. This has been really great.
All right, cool. So I have to make sure I get the authority, because if she don't give me the authority, we're gonna have to keep being here all day, brother. So she said y'all good to go as far as the question's concerned. So with that being said, I don't know if the 6 of y'all plus the other 3 who may have not been here for whatever reason. This is not just an interview just for the 1st Congressional District or the 9th Congressional District or even all 14 congressional districts across the state. Because we still have to play the rules, and I'm going to play the rules fair just like everybody else. There's a particular person on this call who is actually interviewing y'all, because that person is actually going to be a person who you will call a senator that will actually be working with y'all. I'm not going to say no names, because if y'all know what I'm talking about, y'all smile and just go with it and y'all catch on, because I want to stay above water. I don't want nobody hit me over the head saying that James gave a oops out the window. But it's so important that we understand that Senate moves the narrative in this state. And in being the lieutenant governor, even though it is the lowest paid job of all those positions, in my opinion, is the most important position, because you are the chair of the legislative body that changes the narrative here in Georgia. And we have already alluded to that we probably got 20, 30 years of bad legislature. It's just showing its hand the last 2 or 3 years, because guess what? We just got grimier. And in all due respect, I just think that it's just opened up the door that we have not made the forward change we should have as representatives and state senators over the last 30, 40 years. And Georgia, we need to wake up and say, we need to not just focus on those statewide candidates, but we need to focus on all the candidates across the board, from the 159 across the board. In June, she didn't say it, but I'll say it for her. She says, y'all better not forget about the 9th district, because she's tired of Democrats not coming up there to check on what's going on in the 9th district, because they're just as important, in those Democrats in those small nick and cranny places are just as important as Metro Atlanta. And so I appreciate you for making sure you take the time, not just to be with us two, because this will be shared with all the congressional district chairs. I will also say that at least 5 county chairs were also present in the Zoom as far as the webinar is concerned. So there was some important people in that conversation there as well. But moving forward, we're at the end. I've already told you, y'all did an interview for a person on this thing, and I'm not telling you their name. And see, I wasn't even gender specific when I said that. But in closing, give me, I'm gonna say 30 seconds, but I know y'all got up to a minute. But 30 seconds, give me between 30 seconds to 1 minute, your best closing argument about why Georgia, specifically the Democrats in Georgia, should pick you to represent us May the 24th. And I'm going to start in backwards order. So Dr. Malik, you're going to start us off, and I know you're going to give us an energetic closing. So this is your time. Do you got the question, Dr. Malik?
Yes.
All right, start us off, my brother.
Thank you, Dr. Chris. Thank you, Mr. Jones, for giving us the opportunity. As a Lieutenant Governor, what I will bring to you today, look at my eyes. What I'm going to bring to you today is my suffering, my pain, which I've gone through about 40 years in America. I came to America with only $1,200 in my pocket and a small suitcase. My first paid job as a dishwasher at the campus of Truman State University was $2.72. Read my lips, $2.72. I started my life from there. Today, I feel I'm at the highest pinnacle of my success. I'm a CEO of a medical industry, medical company. I deal with senior citizens every day, day in and day out. During the time of COVID, I visited them in their bedroom to ask them how they're doing and what do they need. I understand the pain. I've seen children suffering from COVID while people are talking about Clorox. You don't play tricks with lives. Lives are very important. Our children are very important. Our senior citizens are very important. It is not that they have reached 65 and 70 and they've retired and they're not producing enough for you. No, they are our dear ones. They are having wisdom. We cannot throw them in the nursing home. We have to be close to them and they have to be close to us. Our grandchildren, our children, they need them for wisdom and the meaning of life. The young generation, you don't understand the meaning of life. Go to the senior citizen, our elders. Look at the children, how they suffered during COVID. Why? The politicians made it a political issue. It is not a political issue. It is a health issue. It is the survival of our nation. We are not out of the COVID yet. We have to face it intelligent way with the CDC guidelines. Thank you, Mr. Jones. I see your thumbs up. So I also give you thumbs up. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Malik. You now have the floor, Derek Jackson.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, June. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for joining us tonight. The equation is very simple. Experience matters. I'm the only candidate in the last 10 days that traveled 3,700 miles in Georgia. Travel all parts of Georgia. If you've never been to Ty, Georgia, Greene County, Peach County, in 10 days, 3,700 miles. No chauffeur. I personally, not me, by this magical map. I'm trying to meet Georgians where they are because I will be a lieutenant governor that will not leave not one county behind. All things can't be Atlanta. We have to make sure that we look at all 159 counties, all 537 cities, all 10.8 million Georgians, and small businesses. We tout we're the #1 state to do business. That's large corporations. But we're not the #1 state for family. And I will be your lieutenant governor that will focus on family.
Thank you, sir. Jason, you have the floor, brother.
Yes, thank you so much. Again, my name is Dr. Jason Hayes. I want to thank First Congressional District chairs, everyone from the First Congressional District, and also all of Georgia for allowing me to come and speak with you. I'm a medical doctor, and when we become physicians, we have to make sure that we support, take care of all of our patients. And the same way I take care of my patients, the same way I take care of all of you as Lieutenant Governor. I'm here to look out for the best interests of people. Again, I'm not here for a party, but I'm here for people. And I just want the American people of Georgia to know that I'll be thinking about you, making sure that we find solutions to the issues, not just make assessments, but make assessments and plans and follow through on them. So again, I thank all of you for allowing me to speak with you, meet with you. I will be in Savannah on April 30th. I actually have a booth at the Association County Commissioners of Georgia Conference. And also I will be at the Liberty County Meet and Greet on Fort Stewart at 5 p.m. So look forward to meeting all of you. Dr. Jason Hayes, Democratic candidate for Lieutenant Governor. Let's heal Georgia.
Thank you, Dr. Hayes. Tony Brown, you have the floor, brother.
Yes, let's see. Okay, you can hear me? Okay, great. The bottom line is we're going to make history. We need a brown governor and we need a brown lieutenant governor. I've already driven around the Georgia, and I'm going to continue to drive. And follow me on Facebook, Instagram. I'm driving a 1973 orange MG midget. So, and you can see me get out of the car, and the logo is orange. You glad you met brown. I want you to connect with me. I'm well-rounded, and you can see that on my website at browngovernor.com. Again, I'm just here to make a difference, to lead. As an executive officer, worked at the highest level of government in the Pentagon. I ran the war, Defense Intel Agency. So I'm going to continue to lead and be a great example that you will be proud of. And thank you.
Thank you, Tony. Charlie Bailey, you have the floor, brother.
Thank you again, Jay and Ms. June for having us. I'm Charlie Bailey. I'm a proud Democrat, and I'm running in opposition to that politics of hate and division that the Republicans are putting forward. Because I tell you, what I believe is that we're all human beings, and that we all love our families, and that we all deserve the same dignity, the same respect, the same measure of safety, the same measure of justice, the same opportunity to build and leave for our kids a better life than we had. And it's those values that drive this campaign and have driven my career, whether that was as an attorney under Governor Roy Barnes in his law office, Barnes Law Group, whether that was as a senior assistant district attorney in the organized crime and gang unit in Fulton County DA's office, as the Democratic nominee for Attorney General in 2018, where I got 49% of the vote, the highest vote share of any down ballot statewide Democrat or back in private practice now. Those are the values that have driven my career and that drive this campaign. So stand with me, stand with Mayor Shirley Franklin, stand with the first Congressional District's own State Representative Al Williams, stand with me in this election, and I promise you I won't let you down. Thank you all very much.
Thank you, sir. And Alan, you have the floor. Eric, you have the floor.
All right, well, thank you very much, Mr. Chair and Madam Chair. I was actually up in the 9th District, was it 2 weekends ago with Willis Crump and the crew up there for the Environmental Summit. And I know Charlie Bailey was up there with me as well. But so I think we all agree that it's every corner of this state that needs a lieutenant governor that's ready to respond and meet the moment. And we're at a very unique moment in our history. Don't be fooled. We're at a moment where we have a choice to make. Do we choose hope over hate? Do we choose fighting for our democracy over surrendering it to those who are afraid of the America that is becoming? I am running for lieutenant governor because I have the experience and the desire to make sure that we have the new leadership needed to move us into the next phase of Georgia. I think we have surrendered a lot of the gains that my parents and some of your parents and grandparents fought for. And one of the things that we have learned is our democracy and our rights are not won. They're only achieved and meant to be defended. And we have to defend them. We need to defend the right to vote. We need to defend the right for a woman to have autonomy over her body. We need to fight for the public education system and fight to make sure that our budgets are proportionate to the needs that Georgians have. So I am running for lieutenant governor because I fit that mold and I'm ready to get to work. And my web address is right here below. It replaces my name. Go to Allen for Georgia, learn more about my campaign. And I encourage you to do the research. Look at all of our candidates. But as Chairman Jones said, don't stop at the top. We are not going to make change by electing a Democratic governor and lieutenant governor or secretary of state or attorney general. We're going to make a difference by electing as many of the 159 House members and as many of the 56 Senate members so that we have a coalition that not just focuses on turning Georgia blue, but focuses on moving Georgia forward. Thank you very much for this forum tonight, and I look forward to seeing all of you out there on the campaign trail.
All right, and with that being said, I appreciate gentlemen and lady who actually showed up as far as being here, and she did tell me early on that she had another engagement, so I that is acceptable. I appreciate all y'all for taking the time to be here with us. It's very important that you do spend time in South Georgia. I think with all y'all coming out of Atlanta, it makes it prime that whoever does the best job outside of Atlanta will probably be the one who does, gets in that running. And I think June had already alluded to it. I think we have a good set of candidates actually running for this seat. I will echo the sentiments, and Jason, I appreciate you mentioning this. We do have a lot going on April the 30th here in Chatham County, down here in South Georgia. It'd be a good weekend. Association of County Chairs of Georgia. And Eric, I used to be one of them people. So I used to be at that. I used to actually be one of the hosts for it. So it is very important. That's going on. The first, state committee meeting is going on. And at that meeting is going to be some good discussions in reference to endorsements, which will be voted on. So it might be worthy for y'all to make your way down here to Chatham County that day if you can. And we also have, for the first time in going on 2.5 years, Liberty County actually has a dinner that night. And that's what Jason was talking about. And so I did send it out to everybody. I will have Renee Camper, who was watching this, Chair Camper, who was watching this from Liberty County. I'll make sure she sends out that invitation to y'all. This is a great opportunity because a lot of people will be at that function and they will be in Chatham County. And so I'm just going ahead and share that piece again. I know June, I'm gonna try to see June when she comes to Savannah, Georgia, to make sure that she make sure we catch up with y'all. And between now and May the 24th, if you do have plans to come to Savannah, Georgia, give me a call, give me a ring. If you don't have my phone number, I think all y'all should have my number. I've spoken to y'all via text message, whatever case may be. If you want to come and you want to talk to some people in Savannah, Georgia, I am not applicable to anybody. I will give you an audience because my thing is, if you're willing to come to my neck of the woods, I'm willing to give you an audience. And so it's so important for y'all to make sure y'all get as many audience and for our people to be as informed as possible. So I'm going to stop because I don't want nobody saying I ran my mouth too much. But I appreciate y'all for taking the time to spend some time here with South Georgia and North Georgia with my good friend June, because she speaks highly, but she said that this is going to be a hard race for us to watch. So I appreciate y'all. Happy trails on the campaign trail. If y'all need anything, I'm a phone call away, text message away. And God bless y'all for stepping forward and running for office. Appreciate y'all.
Thank you very
y'all.
much.
Peace.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Appreciate it.